Hi everyone, are you guys able to hear me today? If you guys can hear me, just send me a chat message, or if you have a speaker or you're calling in, please let me know if you can hear me okay. Okay, thank you, Julie. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start today. My name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Manager for Appraiser Genie. We will be going through using Genie today with Appraise, also known as SFREP. What you see on your screen here is information as far as the MLS setup, which is required before you can initially use Genie. We do actually do this for you at no cost. There's a couple of different options. Basically, we store a list of fields under your MLS login in the format we need it in. That way when you upload the search to Genie, it's in the correct format. If you guys haven't had this setup completed yet, you can email mls@appraisergenie.com or call them at the number below. And just for everyone who's now joining the room, this will be recorded and posted online at www.appraisergenie.com. You can click on the training tab and this video will be available at some point tonight, probably around a couple of hours once we wrap up. Alright, so this process is very easy. I don't actually go through the entire process during the webinar because it is very different depending on the MLS you guys use. So what I'm going to show you is a file that I have saved from the MLS to my computer. So I'm going to go down here and show you guys an example. Okay, so this screenshot here is a screenshot of Intrace, which is the MLS that's used by us here. We're actually in Abilene, Texas, so we're very familiar with Intrace. What I did is I just logged into the MLS and I entered the criteria you already see here in blue. Now that is an example of what you should generally do. I just went about 2 miles out, typed in the subject address, grabbed my sold, active, pendings, everything that would make up the 1004 or the neighborhood criteria. Of course I narrowed it to single family, 1 story only, and a price range. So the whole point is you want to bring in the entire neighborhood in whatever fashion you want to. You can actually use the map feature if you're more comfortable, however you guys want to do it. And you'll notice I have about 98 matches down here. So all I did is I went to results and I saved this search here to my computer. And I just put it where it was easy to find, and it's located right here. So it's already open. And you'll notice there are column headers in a certain order. This is an example of the Genie template that we store under your login. That way when you click export, it will export it in this format. So it's very easy. We don't charge you guys anything. You can do it yourself. You can go to our website and print off the PDF if you'd like to try to do it yourself. It's up to you. So before you start Genie, generally you'll log into the MLS and create the search and just save it somewhere. You'll want to do that first. And then of course what we'll do now is have a report open and appraise it. Now as I scroll through here, you'll notice it's pretty empty. All I did was put in the subject information here, which is what Genie needs to actually work. So make sure you have the address, city, state, zip, county if you know it. When you scroll down, I put in the general information such as stories, detached, if it was a ranch, year built, some of this stuff here just because it is related to the subject and Genie would need this. So you don't have to fill out every single thing. Fill out what you know, of course. And when you scroll down, page 2, you will definitely want this filled out as accurately as possible. Reason being is we import this column here into Genie. We transfer the subject criteria into Appraiser Genie, which is then verified with buildingcost.net. They return the total replacement cost write-up based off the subject. So if you don't know some of this criteria, you could leave it blank. At that point, though, you're relying on public records, which can be either accurate or very inaccurate depending on where you guys are. So try to actually have this in here beforehand, but if you don't, like you'll see, I don't know the room count for this, so I left it blank. Genie's going to try to pull the room count for me if it can find it. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I left everything empty. We actually will complete the 1004 MC for you guys. We'll fill out the comp grid, of course, any sold inactives. And going down, we will fill out the cost approach too. There's actually a ton of PDFs that will provide you and document for support, which I'll show you guys after we export. So we'll go back to here. Now with Appraise It, we don't manage any billing, so before you guys can actually use Genie, you will need to contact them. I'm not sure if they're running a promotional for any free uses, but any purchases specifically with Appraiser Genie, you'll have to call Appraise It. So of course I already use Appraise It with Genie. I won't be doing that, but I will show you how to launch it. Once you have the report open and you have the file saved to your computer from your MLS, we can go ahead and click on Services, and underneath you're going to see Appraiser Genie Cloud. Now there's no installation. Appraise It does it on their end, so any of you guys should be able to go to Services and click on Appraiser Genie Cloud. When you click on that, it's going to give you a little load screen here. Just let it load. And you'll notice a browser populated on its own. So it is cloud-based. We don't physically store anything on your computer other than a very small file. You'll be taken to a sign-in screen. Now if you guys are more familiar with like Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, we don't recommend you go through Genie with those browsers. They don't support a lot of the newer code. You can have random errors. So definitely, as you see at the bottom here, I have Chrome open. I would recommend sending your browser default-wise to Chrome or Firefox, but overall we prefer Chrome. Now when this launches, you're not going to have an email and password initially, so for everyone who is a new user, when this launches, you'll just go down here and click on registration, and you'll notice it's asking for your registration info. So whatever you enter here is going to be what you sign in with. Whatever email you define here and whatever password, you'll just go down, fill out the rest, make sure you change this to Appraise It, and you'll click register. Now we're not going to do that. I'm already signed up, so I'm just going to go back. But what you'll see is this screen here again. You're just going to sign in with the email and password you just made. Definitely click Remember Me so you don't have to keep typing it in, and click Submit. Now as long as you see this little circle towards the top here, definitely let it load. You don't want to get click happy and interfere with it moving to the next tab, so just hang tight. If you see this moving around, it will take you to the next page. Okay, so what you see here is Appraiser Genie. Now if you're a brand new user, you're definitely going to want to set up your defaults before you just jump into this. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And the way you do it is there a forward and backward arrow towards the top here. We're going to click this back arrow all the way over until it's faded, and we want to click on Defaults. Now of course it's loading. It's going to take us to the Defaults tab. These defaults we set up here are going to apply to every report you run with Genie, but you can come back and change them at any point if you need to. So we'll quickly go through this. We won't go through this extensively just because we have actually a separate video that walks you through the defaults itself, but I will briefly go over it in case anyone needs a refresher or just needs general information on how to use it. In these blue tabs here, there are actually quite a few different defaults. If you click on the tabs, they take you to different defaults such as graphs. Abbreviations is a list of abbreviations for the report. So for example, if the comparable has Cool Central Heat Forced Air, it's going to say FWA/CAC. It will say whatever you put in these boxes here in the report based on what the heating and cooling is. Now these will preload as you see them. They should be UAD compliant, but if you don't want to use these, just write your own and save it, and then we'll put in the report whatever you want here. On the main tab defaults, make sure for Appraise It you have the software changed to Appraise It. If you do not, it will not work at all, so make sure that's correct. The following information in here is optional. If it doesn't have an asterisk, you don't have to put something there, so you'll notice everything's blank. I didn't fill out any of this, but you guys can fill that out there. Now these options here relate to adjustments. You're going to see concessions, age variance, site size variance. These blue question marks will help you as well. If you're not sure what to do, you can click on the blue question mark and it will explain it. Now I will explain these three just to provide clarification. What Genie wants you to do is enter the maximum percentage of concessions that is customary for your area. Anything over the maximum will automatically be adjusted. So you'll notice I have a 3 here, and it's a percentage. So if a comp reports maybe 5% concessions, Genie's only going to adjust for the difference of 3 and 5, which is 2. Now this is totally subjective on your MLS whether or not they provide concession adjustments or concession amounts. A lot of them don't. When you download the file to your computer, it may be completely blank. So if it is, it's not going to do anything with concessions. Or you can leave a 0, and if the MLS reports concessions, then we'll adjust for all concessions reported. That's what a 0 means. Age variance works similar. If you don't make an age adjustment, maybe for comps that are within 5 years newer or older than the subject, you can put a 5 there, and then anything over the 5-year difference we will adjust for. Anything within 5 we do not. Put a 0. Let's just say you want an adjustment for all age difference subject to comp. You can put a 0 there. Same thing with site size. It's a percentage. Let's say you don't typically make an adjustment for comps that are within 30% of the subject site size, smaller or bigger. You can put a 30 there. Anything over 30 we adjust for, under 30 we do not. Or leave a 0 and we adjust for all site size variance. These are standard. They typically stay by default. You can change these. I don't know why you would change them unless this is different. Maybe it's required you go back 2 years for comp previous sales history. If so, you can change it to a 2 or leave it on 1. Minimum square foot to adjust. I put a 10 here, which I actually wanted 100. So I'm telling Genie don't adjust for the first 100 square feet difference subject to comp, or just 100 in general. Anything over the 100 we will adjust for as far as GLA. I see a lot of appraisers put a 50 there or 100, whatever works for you. Rounding, as you guys might have caught on so far, Genie does provide adjustments. As far as whether or not you use them, it's up to you. But if you do, you can tell Genie to round up to the next $100, $500, or $1,000, whatever you prefer. Comp export sort order, whatever is set here, you can choose from different options. That is the order in which the comps will export back to the report. So if you want them ordered by close date, contract date, whatever you'd like. Anything with a checkbox is going to be optional. That means either you can complete this on your own or Genie can. We do provide a subject effective age adjustment, reconciled value, and we also provide all of the adjustments below. But maybe you guys don't adjust for wood deck in your area, pool, sprinkler. You can deselect those and leave the rest selected if needed. National Association of Home Builders. This is actually a national average of the cost of constructing a home. The percentage, you cannot make up your own percentage. You can't change this one. This is done for you. It's just a reference. Anytime they update their website, it will be updated for you. And this is going to be contributed to the GLA, less any incidentals like driveways, sidewalks, and that's something we pull for you automatically. Now this is important, the MLS acronym. You're going to want to list here the acronym of the MLS you use. Intrace is an example. If you use the North Texas MLS, you will type in Intrace. If you use Austin, you can put ABOR, Tennessee, Rail Tracks. Whatever MLS you guys use, you'll just put the acronym there, and you can list up to 8 different MLSs here. Now if you're not sure what to put here, please call us because it does have to be what we have on file for you. That way when Genie when you upload your MLS file, Genie knows which MLS to map it to, meaning making the fields what they should be depending on your MLS. So don't just type what you want, just give us a call if you're not sure. Verification source, rights, locations, all of these fields you see below are going to refer back to the Appraise report. So for example, under verification source, we have MLS, assessor, and doc number. So in the report here, under verification source, it's going to say MLS, assessor, and then we're going to pull the doc number. So that's going to happen for each comp. If that's what you want Genie to put in that box there, you leave it as it is, or you can choose from the drop down a couple of different options, or you can type your own. Now there's 3 boxes because technically I could put one more thing in there, but at some point it's going to cut it off anyway, so I don't recommend more than 2. Same thing with the boxes below, functional utility, energy efficiency, whatever is in this box here, that will transfer to the report here. So standard will come across, and then energy efficiency, I put DP installation, and that will goes straight across the board. Now you don't have to use what's in these drop downs. As you notice, there's actually quite a few we've added recently. It's up to you. If you don't want to use any of them, or maybe you write it differently, you can just type it in the box like I did here. Same thing with functional utility. You can choose one of these or type in whatever you'd like. Alright, so blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3. You're going to notice there's 3 blanks in each row here. And I'm going to go ahead and show you where this goes on the report. This is blank row 1. That will be row 2 and row 3. You'll notice in Fireplace I have row 1. So if we go back to Genie, I put Fireplace in blank row 1. Now if you want Fireplace to pull correctly, meaning Genie always puts Fireplace here, it's always going to show up in this blank row 1. And if you need a Fireplace adjustment, it will always show up in blank row 1. So we recommend if you use Fireplace to put it in row 1, and if you use Pull, put it in row 3. So you'll notice down here I have Pull in row 3. Blank, number 2 I leave blank because it varies. I don't know what I'm going to put there. Sometimes report to report. You can leave everything blank and you'll fill it out later. Or you don't have to use Pull or Fireplace. There's a couple of others you can select from the drop down. And you can put up to 3 different things in each row. But like I said, it will cut off at some point. So for now I'm just going to go with Fireplace and Pull. Public record verification. When you're choosing the comps you want to use for the report, you can tell Genie when you verify site information, go ahead and use public record MLS, which means this file down here I downloaded on my computer. If you set it to MLS, it's going to use whatever your MLS gave us. If you set it to public, then we're just going to pull public records to fill that in. Or if you're not sure, maybe you want to rely on our peer database, you can change it to that. I don't recommend peer. Peer totally depends on how many appraisers in your area use the Genie. If there's not a lot, maybe you're in rural Wisconsin or somewhere that is not California, basically. I wouldn't rely on peer because if there's nothing in peer to return, it will show up blank. You're going to have to type it in manually. Now, if you're not sure what to use, like me, you can leave everything on Ask Me, and then later on, if there's a discrepancy, meaning MLS reports different than public, you'll get a little pop-up box and you can just see what they all reported. I would recommend Ask Me for anyone who is not sure, or maybe you can't rely on either. Definitely leave it on Ask Me. Okay, this last column here is column order. You're going to notice there's a list of columns here. Now when you're picking the comps for the report from Genie, you're going to see all of this information displayed for each comp. So what I did is I moved these fields up and down in the order I want to see the information displayed. So these top 6 fields, we'll refer back to this later so it makes sense. And you'll understand this at a later point. I don't want to confuse you guys, but it's just ordering you can put this in, and I'll come back to this. Alright, so since we're at the bottom, we're going to scroll back to the top. Anytime I make a change, I want to click Save. And as stated, it's going to load up top here. Now while that loads, I'm going to touch on this narrator tab here. It's not fully functional yet, but once it is, just to give you guys an idea of the awesome feature, let me go and pull it up. Okay, so this narrator addendum is going to be provided by default now for every report. It's going to give you a bunch of narrative for pretty much anything you need. Extraordinary assumption, highest and best use, property rights appraised, subject, contract, neighborhood, any marketing time, market conditions. You'll notice any adjustments you click on in Genie will break it down and say, okay, you chose a bath adjustment for 1,000, half bath for 600 based on this. And the cool thing is we give you the breakdown for any weighting based on the comps you choose. We give you a summary, and the summary actually just pulls data for you. So based on the report you're using, it's going to actually pull this information. Anything with a number here will be accurate based on the report you're using. Previous sales history will pull all this for you as well. Just a lot of this. There's quite a few more stuff. I don't have everything going. It's still beta testing. But as stated, anything we actually can pull for you based on the report. And that's an example because that tab's not functional, but we'll make sure to let everyone know once it's actually available. So we'll minimize that. Okay, now, as stated, we don't go through all these extensively, but I wanted to show you how to get here. You can come back and change any of this if you need to. For now, we're going to go ahead and start the report, and the way you do that is we're going to go back to these forward and backward arrow. Now we're going to go forward, and well, technically backward, and click this arrow all the way over until we see input. Input is your home page. So if you're ever on the defaults, to get back to start the report, you just click on input. Okay, so it's loading as well. And this may move a little slower when we're in GoToMeeting, but you guys, it should go a little quicker for you. Across the top here, you're going to have your subject address that gets pulled from the Appraise It report. You're going to notice an Appraise It here. I don't have the legal or parcel, so Genie pulled that for me, and we'll put that in the report. Now we're just going to fill out this page, top going down. For now, we're going to ignore this section. We're going to click this down arrow and enter the effective date. We're just going to go with today. Click the down arrow and select the form you're using. This top one is the single family 1004 UAD, which is what we're using. But there are quite a few different forms we support here in case you're not doing a 1004. Now, cost approach is optional. You can leave it on yes or change it to no. If the lender doesn't require it in the report, you can change it to no. Leave it on yes. If you do leave it on yes, it's not going to hurt anything. You're still going to get the support and documentation. Maybe they come back a month later and say, you know, I want you to go ahead and do cost approach, whatever it is. You can leave that on yes if you'd like, or keep it on no. REO addendum, quantitative REO, listing addendum, the checkboxes, you can select those if you need them in the report. And this FHA and VA, that's going to refer back to the narrator based on if it's an FHA or VA. You will check which one's applicable when that's actually functional. Now this section here, basically what we want to do is we want to take the MLS search that we saved to the computer. I'm going to go back to it. And this file here is my whole neighborhood. I showed you guys the criteria earlier. I only narrowed it by stories and I think list price. So if we scroll down, there's about 118 comps in here. Now I don't want all 118 in the 1004, and I don't want all 118 to affect any analysis or support, so I'm going to narrow this down. And you do that based on the criteria here. So everything here is going to be plus or minus whatever the subject criteria is. You'll notice I have a 15 here. What Genie is going to do is Genie is going to narrow out the file. The comps have to be within 15 years newer or older than the subject. If they're not within this 15, they'll stay in this file here in the neighborhood search, but they won't be in the 1004. They won't affect any analysis, regression, none of that. Anything with a 0, you're just not narrowing it by site size, stories. I don't recommend you put something in every field here because you can narrow it far too much. Or if your MLS incorrectly enters maybe garage space or basement, I don't recommend using those because if you use their criteria and it's wrong, it's not going to narrow it correctly. So for me, generally, I just go with GLA, age, maybe site, depending on the report. 40%, I only want to return comps that are 40% plus or minus the subject site size, or GLA, excuse me. So I have a 40 here. And the rest I'm going to leave 0. Reconciliation, this is a use path requirement between the 3 methods, cost, sales, and income. Now you have to score 1 through 10 here, 10 being most similar. 10 means I want the full weight on sales comparison, which is typically what I see, but you can break it down. Maybe you want 2 for cost, 8 for sales, just make sure it adds up to 10. And leave the other 2 blank if they're not needed. Highest and best use, the current use is residential, below is possible, also residential. And multifamily does display by default, but you'll see there's a drop-down box. You can click on the blank space to get rid of it. Land comp sales, this section is optional. This is only if you have raw land sales that you need to be reconciled. What you do is you just type in the address here, sales price here, all the criteria manually, and then we will consider that information when we derive the land value. Now if you don't have raw land sales, you just simply skip this and leave it as it is. Same thing with square foot method. Any of the green boxes you can manually enter information. This is for Marshall and Swift though. If you use Marshall and Swift for cost approach, you'd have to manually type it in here. Or you can leave this exactly as you see it and use buildingcost.net for cost approach, which is default. So me, I just leave everything as it is. I go with buildingcosts.net, but as stated, you can use Marshall and Swift here. Okay, so once I've reached the bottom, we're going to scroll back to the top. Now you're going to notice the Browse button. This is the point in which we need to import the MLS search that I saved in my computer, so we'll click Browse. And we need to go to where that's saved. Okay, and this is the file here. So I can either double click on this or I can just click on it and go to Open. You'll notice the file name is here now. So now we need to tell Genie what MLS that belongs to. You'll have a little green drop down box here. You just click on it and Intrace will pull up because I put it in my defaults. So all you do is click on that and that tells Genie this file belongs to Intrace, and all we do is click Start New Report. Real quick, you can actually upload more than one MLS. So let's say you use 2 MLSs and some searches you pull from one and another one you have to finish a search with, so to speak. You can go back to Browse, just click on another file, tell Genie what MLS it belongs to. Let's say this is Austin, and it will import both of those files and it will map it according to the MLS. So don't forget you can do that. We'll close that and we'll go back to Start New Report. Now Genie's going to go and import that file. We're going to verify every address in the file with the Postal Service. We will order the comps for you based on the subject location. We will kick out anything that's not UAD compliant. And now you're going to see a pop-up box. So this pop-up box, if you notice, if I go back to Appraise it, that's going to be the same information that's in this area here. So that's why I state you'll want to have this accurately filled out, because once you get here, Genie's going to transfer it. We want you to look at this, make sure it's right. Let's say you forgot to put stories in. If it's still blank when you get in here, then we weren't able to pull stories for you. Anything with a blank you can fix. If everything looks great, mine does, then you'll click Next at the bottom. Now since we narrowed it down based on age and GLA, we'll see how many comps are left. You guys won't see this little list here. But what you will see is this counter at the top. So if we go back to the file, remember we started with like 118. Since I narrowed it, it took it down to 29. So this here, the comp search tab is in blue. This is your narrowed search, and only these 29 will go into the 1004MC, and only the solds will be used for regression or matched pair analysis. So you guys control the 1004. Let's say, you know, over 118 you feel this is far too narrow. Maybe you kicked out way too many comps for the 1004. You can go back and click on Input. All you do is widen the parameters, re-import the file, and it will change what you see here. So the 25 solds, that is regression and matched pair analysis. We use the solds here. That's not going to produce the most accurate regression adjustment or matched pair. You need a substantial amount of solds definitely for regression, but if this is your 1004, by no means would I recommend just going back to pull in more solds for regression, because it doesn't work for everyone. So the point is if we can run regression, we'll still give you the PDF, all the support for it, but if it doesn't produce a good result, it's kind of your way of saying, you know, I consider regression but it wasn't accurate, so I didn't use it. Now on this page here, the 29 in total is stated. That will be your 1004, the actives and solds. The 25 will be regression and matched pair. And the comps you choose for the report and the subject, that's what we use for extraction and allocation. So let's say I just chose these three, and my subject. That's all that's going to be used when we give you guys an extraction or allocation adjustment. Now you'll notice these column headers here. If I actually grab this horizontal bar and go over, you'll see it goes over quite a long way. And that's because all of those fields, if you refer back to the defaults where I told you I'd come back to it, the column order, this is what I was talking about. You can move these columns up and down based on how you want to see them here. So you don't have to scroll over back and forth trying to find what you're looking for. I generally just want to see GLA, year built, sales price, close date, distance, site, maybe this criteria here, and then pretty much anything after that I don't really use. So order this based on the criteria you need to see when you're picking the comps. Now this page is in order for you. Top going down, we start with closest proximity to the subject, followed by most recently sold, and then least adjusted. So hypothetically, if distance is calculated correctly, the more comparable properties would be towards the top, but there's a lot of criteria you'll still want to consider, like GLA, year built. Definitely don't just go through and click the top however many, because they may not be the best ones. Plus, distance is totally subjective on whether or not we can verify it. If you ever come through here and maybe you see a bunch of zeros in here, that just means we couldn't calculate the distance. Address may have been entered incorrectly somehow in the MLS or whatnot, so definitely just keep that in mind when you're going through here. Now all you do on this page is you click on the comps you want to use for the report. So after you look at the criteria, you can actually reorder this. Let's say you want to reorder GLA highest to lowest, or vice versa. You can click on GLA, and it looks like it's going lowest to highest. You can click on it again, and it should go highest to lowest. So if you click around, you're going to mess up the ordering we had it in. If you want to get back to that, you just click on Reset Sort Order up here, and you'll notice it's back in the normal order. Now you can just go back down to Appraise it if you want to refer back to the subject information, or you can click on Subject, and it will just show you the subject criteria again as well. Now generally, if you do narrow it and you do a decent job defining the neighborhood search, you shouldn't have any outliers in here. But if you are going through here, maybe let's say the sales price for the subject's $150 and there's comps in here for $500,000 or whatever it is, you can click on the comps to get rid of them. All you do is click on the address, click Delete Selected Comps. You would click Yes, and it's going to actually remove it from this page. That way it doesn't affect the 1004 or any adjustment support. So you'll want to do that first if that's ever the case. Then what you'll do is go through here and choose the comps you want to use. So I don't have any picked out. Let me just go back here. And 1928. So I'm going to use this to reorder it. Okay, so I believe I had this one here. And I'm just going to pick a couple. The S is going to tell me sold, pending is going to be pending, a P, and A is active. It's a little small, 42. So that's an example. You can pick up to 9, I believe, with Appraise it. There's a little counter here. It's going to tell you how many solds you have here. If you need actives, if it's required, you can just scroll through here and grab some actives if that's needed. And then we'll just click Next. Alright, so once you click Next, we're going to take the 3 comps you chose for the report. And this is where we're going to go ahead and verify with the MLS reports against what public records reports in our peer. So this pop-up box is telling me for this address, for age, MLS is saying it's 40, public is saying 41, and peer says 40. So this is a good example of Ask Me. Since I left it on Ask Me in the defaults, Genie's just going to tell me what they all said. That way I can go through here and pick whichever one I feel is correct. Now let's say you go through here and you feel public's wrong, maybe MLS, they're both wrong. You could actually type in a value in this peer. It will actually use whatever you put in there. So let's say it was 38. You can type in 38 and click on Use Peer, and we will upload this to the database and put it in the peer database to help you next time you go through Genie. For now, I'm just going to leave that as is. The top boxes will let you select them individually. So for example, let's say I'm going to go with MLS. You'll notice it changes. 869 Oak Bluff for garage. So MLS says 2 car, public says 1, peer says 2. Let's say I don't want to go through these individually and I just want to use public for any remaining discrepancies. That's when you use the bottom boxes. So for now we're just going to use public for all of the rest. Alright, so this page is pretty easy to read. You're going to see on the left hand side you have your subject information. When you scroll down, anything that's pre-populated, that comes from you putting it in the report or public records. If you grab the horizontal bar, you're going to see the first comp we chose, 869, 917, lastly 942. And of course all the information that's displayed is public, MLS, or peer. Anything with pink will be peer database. Although we don't pull quality rating from public, I don't know why that highlights pink, but the quality, we actually just map it across from whatever your subject is. So that definitely doesn't come from public. Now the way you read the page is pretty easy. You just follow it horizontally. So here is cite. This value here is for your subject. When you go straight across, this is cite for this address, and you just go straight across. There's cite for that address as well. And lastly, here's cite for this comp 942 Briar Cove. So you would want to go through here and look through this. If you need to change anything, if anything's blank, you can correct it. If we're missing anything important, meaning we couldn't get it from public MLS and maybe our peer didn't have it, you will see a blank box. It will be highlighted yellow, and that's just telling you, okay, we need you to find the value, whatever it is, for cite, GLA, whatever the case is. All you do is type it in, and it will upload any adjustments that were affected. So if we're missing any criteria, you can enter it here, and that will update the whole page here. Now we'll go back to the middle. You're going to see this black adjustment column. If you go downward, you're going to see these are the different type of adjustments we give you: age, bath, bedroom, GLA. And as stated earlier, these are optional. I see it both ways. I see some appraisers who want us to put the adjustment in the report, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I see some appraisers who don't. They just want all the support and backup, but they don't want us to put the adjustment in the report. If that's the case, you have nothing to do here. You could actually just click on Export to Report, and it would go from there. But for those who would actually want to use the adjustments, I'll show you how to do that. For example, this is your land value. This 30,000, if you look up, that's based on allocation. 32.6 based on extraction, and then regression's kind of skewy. 9,705 regression. So what you do is you go through here and you would just click on the comp, the adjustment that has the value you want to use. So let's say you feel 30,000 is closer or more accurate to the land value. You can click on it. It will make the adjustment in the report. Now if you want more information, maybe you want to know how the 30,000 was derived, or the 32. You'll notice all of these tabs you can click on them now. What we'll do is we'll click on the land tab. That'll tell us more information about the land value. So we'll click on land. And when you scroll down, you're going to see land extraction method and land allocation method. So this will just give you the breakdown on the land value. This will actually be converted into a PDF and put in your work file, which will be in your documents folder. You can actually click on any of these. There's allocation if you want allocation adjustment information. We will break it down based on full bath, half bath, heating and cooling appliances. Anything you need to know here, the adjustments towards the end. Now this 62% is contributed towards GLA, the 100 being the total replacement cost. That goes back to the defaults where you saw 61.7. We just rounded up to 62. And all we do is put that percentage into this average dollar per square foot, which is based on the comps I chose. That comes to 45. So that's why on the side-by-side, when we go back to the grid, you'll see a $45 allocation adjustment for GLA, and then garage was 18, so we'll see $13 per square foot, and if it's a space, it'll be 3,000. So all this will be in your work file. There's porch, patio, pool, uncovered, covered, wood deck. Now we're just going to go back over, and the grid will be on the side-by-side. So if you ever just come around here and look at all these tabs, you'll want to go back here when you're done, which is side-by-side. And that just takes us back to the grid. Okay. Now one thing that you guys won't see quite yet that we're working on is this repairs tab. When you click on it, if you know any repair information for the subject, let's say it needs a heating and cooling repair, not a full repair percentage, you can define the percentage and put in a comment here, and these repair information, the amounts, are based on a construction cost takeoff by buildingcost.net. So this information is pulled from them. You can upload it here. You can put whatever commentary you want, click save, and that will go into the narrator addendum as well. And of course, as stated, those two are not fully functional yet. Now back to this, if I do want to make an adjustment in the report, we're just going to click on whichever one we think is more accurate, or we can look at the tabs and pick one from there. We'll go with 30. It's going to load blue. You'll have a loading screen. and then straight across each comp you'll have an adjustment. Same thing, we can go down. Let's say we want to make an age adjustment. We can do the $45 per square foot, 41 or 27. Let's go with 41. Okay, and then here's the first comp, first adjustment, straight across the board. You only click on the ones you want us to put in the report. Those that you do not want in the report, just don't click on them. Now you'll notice I have fireplace. Fireplace is here as stated. It's always going to come across in this first blank row 1. Same thing with pool. Pool will always go in blank row 3. So that's why I recommend you have pool and fireplace there. Alright, so once you're through clicking on the adjustments you want to use, you can click on Export to Report. It's going to give you a preparing screen. We're just going to let this load. Now this is the point where you don't have to do anything other than just let it sit here. You'll get this little progress bar. Now at this point we're just communicating with Appraise to send this information back to the report. So sometimes it can take a minute, just depends on how long it takes them to respond. Okay, once it disappears you'll see this did your report export. We're going to ignore it. In a few seconds you should have a little pop-up box from Appraise. It's a little load bar. We just need to sit here until we see that populate right there. If you cancel it or do something while this is trying to load, it will completely back out the whole process. So just sit there. Once that screen loads, now we can go ignore this. We'll go back to Appraise it, and you'll see all the comps are in here now. Okay, so I chose the first three comps. There's my doc number that was pulled for me since I put it in the defaults. Any adjustments I physically clicked on are in here. The adjustments I did not, as stated, we don't put them in there unless you click on them. We don't give you a condition rating. That's subjective. You guys will do that. And as stated, equality is just mapped from the subject. Now, I don't put anything in porch and patio. I leave it blank. If you guys have a default set in Genie for porch and patio, it will say whatever you put there. Fireplace will be straight across here, and pool will be straight down here. And I forgot to type pool there. But that is how I have mine set. I left blank row 2 blank because I don't know what I'm going to put there, report to report. You can do the same. We go to the 1004. You'll have the 1004 MC filled out. And this here is an example of a comment we put in the report for you. You don't have to use what we put, but all of the actual numbers you see here, we're pulling it for each report based on the Genie. So that's a good comment. We also do the cost approach, and if we find any prior sales history, which totally depends on First American, which is public records. They own data tree, so that's where that comes from. The cost approach will be in here as well. Okay, now the bulk of what we do, I will show you guys, will be in the Documents folder. So you're just going to go to where the Documents folder is on your computer, go to Documents. You'll have a folder already pre-made labeled Appraiser Genie. You just double click on it. We're going to go to, you guys won't see all of this, but what you will see is a folder labeled 2017. Any report you run in 2017 with the Genie will be in here, so we'll double click on this. And it's going to label the folder whatever the subject address is. So I've ran this one twice. Look for the most recent time. Of course, that's a couple minutes ago, so we'll double click this folder. Any graphs, they're there by default if you chose them. You just double click work file. And there are all my graphs and all the tabs that were in Genie. So let's say you want to look at allocation, you double click it. And that's the tab I showed you guys earlier. It's just now converted into a PDF format, so you can refer back to it, make your own adjustment, whatever you want. 1004, that's fully broken down for you. Marketing time, neighborhood information, your sold amount, active. Extraction. There's a lot of information in here as far as extraction. We will tell you anything that you multiply, divide, it's very simple. For example, E times F equals G. Well, this tells me it's E, that's F, and it goes G right here. So anything with subtracting, it's in parentheses, just look at the column row. The diminishing return is down here. Your site size. Of course, your adjusted value and your forecasting adjustment. Now, if you need basement, finished, unfinished, or any GLA extraction information, that's there. Let's see. Reconcile is pretty cool. We will break down the weighted by gross, weighted by net, weighted by quantity. The average of those three will be the 168. The 168, if you go down, that is what we derived for sales comparison, and then cost approach is 191. So this 168 is what I should see right there. Alright, so that's pretty much the gist of it. As stated, this narrator addendum will be available very soon. We'll make sure to notify everyone. You guys can do whatever you want with these PDFs. You can refer back to them. There is some information you guys are obviously going to have to consider, especially what your market knowledge is for the area. Genie expedites a lot of what you do. You definitely will want to take these adjustments and, of course, further develop them based on your own knowledge. Now, I will go ahead and unmute everyone. That way, if anyone has any questions before I wrap it up, I'd be happy to stick around and answer anything you guys need to know. Anyone have any questions?
Angela, can you hear me?
I can, of course. Yes, ma'am.
I lost the screen at about the place where you said export to the report tab, wait for the green bar to load, and ignore that yes or no, and then I lost the screen. The whole screen was gone.
Okay.
So just wanted to let you know that. And the only other thing I would be interested in is, since this was an example dummy report, can you just email us a copy of it so we can just look at it and see it? Because seeing it on the screen in pieces and bits is usually not as effective for me as it would be just to really look at it like a piece of paper and read it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can send you a copy of the Genie completed report. That's fine.
That would be terrific.
Can you send me a message? Just send it to me privately with your email address, so I definitely don't forget to do that. Just send it, go to the chat feature, and where it says to everyone, you just change the drop down to presenter or host, one of the two, and then just type in your email and I'll see it only.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, awesome. Anybody else have any questions? It's pretty quick. It does a lot for you. It didn't take the whole hour by any means, but we schedule an hour just in case anyone has questions. Someone's asking the basement adjustments. Hold on one second. Okay, so let me go back to this real quick. Once I went back down to Appraise and I saw everything was in the report, that is when I come back to Genie and I go ahead and click on yes. And the reason I do that is I don't want to say yes if it didn't work or maybe something didn't transfer over, so that's my fault. I forgot to tell you guys that. But it will show you this, say it's closed. All you do is close it. Let's go back to the work file. So we're going to go to Documents, Appraiser Genie, 2017. Okay, and I got to remember where it is. I think it's Extraction. No, I think it's Cost. Okay, see this little table here? This is from the National Building Cost Manual, Craftsman. They tell us, okay, up to a certain amount of unfinished or finished square footage as far as basement, they give us a little table that we use. So your basement information is adjusted or provided based on this table here, and it actually gives you, I think, a little bit more information in the Appraiser Genie tab when you're still in there. And just to help you with that too, I have a document here. If I can remember it right here. Okay, this little workflow guide here, what it does is it tells you the back end of how all this information is used, how it's added, how it's derived. If you look through here, it will give you more information on basement. Right here it says basement adjustment. We're going to apply the GLA dollar per square foot from cost, which is what I showed you guys, to extraction to determine the ratio. Then we apply a ratio to basement replacement cost from cost page. So I can send anyone who needs this. It just breaks down what you don't see visually, but it tells you the back end of everything.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, I usually do that just by default. Usually get a wrap-up email once I'm off the phone. By default, I can include that as well. I would definitely recommend it. That way, you know, you get all the support in the PDFs, but if you want to further explain the adjustments behind it, all you do is copy and paste that workflow into it, and then it tells you, okay, here's this based on what this is. It's very easy to read. Anyone else? I don't think anyone else has a mic in here, but that's okay. If anyone wants to just send me a chat, we can do that as well. Okay, style of home. Style of home depends on the MLS. So traditional, if that's how the MLS has it entered, let's look. I believe so. That's going to come totally from this file here. A lot of things we run into is some MLSs don't tell us detached, attached. They may not tell you the style of the home. They may not tell you the story count. Some of that just totally depends on this. Let's see if Intrace has it. So Intrace is using architectural style, meaning when we set up the custom export, if we can find a field in the MLS similar to architectural style, they may not say it exactly like this, but we'll look for something similar. That way we can pull the style of the comp and put it in the report. Now, if they flat out don't give you any of this, then it's going to be blank once you export it here. So that may or may not come across, depends on your MLS. MRED, I can look. Steve, if you want, you can go ahead and call our support line and we can try to find where it lists it. I think MRED does. I'm not 100% sure, but if it does, we can just add it to the template and that will fix your issue. So if you guys run through here and you see anything like he said, maybe design isn't transferring, style, just stuff in here, always give our support line a call, because if it can be found in the MLS, we can add it there and then it'll show up here. So don't think it's just not transferring it. It could be an oversight on our end when we were helping you, or they may have just added it recently. All right, Steve, so don't forget to give our support line a call or send an email. I would probably recommend you call. That way they can just remote it and help you and get it taken care of. But if no one else has any questions, as stated, this will be posted on appraisergenie.com. Just click on the training tab, and once I upload this, everyone who's in the webinar, I'll send you a copy. You can forward it to your friends, whatever you want to do, or just send an email back if you have questions. All right, well, if no one else has questions, thank you guys for your time. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.